By being a racing driver means you are racing with other people. And if you are no longer going for a cab that exists, you're no longer a racing driver because we are competing to win. These are the words from one of the greatest drivers of our time, Mr. Ayrton Senna. Guys, I hope you enjoyed the video and I'll see you in the next one.
Ayrton Senna. Ayrton Senna da Silva, the 21st of March 1960 to the 1st of May 1994, was a Brazilian racing driver who won 3 Formula 1 World Championships for McLaren in 1988, 1990 and 1991 and is regarded as one of the greatest Formula 1 drivers of all time. He was killed in an accident while leading the 1994 San Marino Grand Prix. He was magic, simply the most gifted of them all. He was able to do amazing things with inferior cars, and when cars were real machines with lots of power, manual gearboxes and so on. Simply another dimension compared to current video game cars, where you open the rear spoiler to gain 30% more speed and easily overtake. His numbers would be even more impressive if he had the chance to compete in 2 or 3 more championships, or if he had the chance to start from the very beginning with a strong car or to run against inferior teammates, as Schumi, Hamilton and Vettel did when they started whining. Senna and Fangio are simply in another dimension, period. Ayrton Senna was not just a legend, but he was a famous icon to Brazil, and still to this day he is. He was the best, especially in the rain. 2. Michael Schumacher. It's certainly not crap about Senna being the best in the wet. Let me spill some beans about Schumacher's infamous Rainmaster drive. During that race Barcelona, if I remember, Ferrari were running a system which gave their cars additional traction. It was very borderline legally, but the authorities turned a blind eye as they were keen for Ferrari to get back to the top. Additionally, Schumacher's contract at Ferrari meant that the second driver played a supporting role, so he was never in a Lauda, Prost or Prost-Senna situation. You could say he was the Pete Sampras of motor racing, undoubtedly one of the best, but the number of titles doesn't mean quite so much considering the lack of competition. Perhaps he should be tied with Fangio in this respect. 3. Juan Manuel Fangio. Unlike the other racers on this list, Fangio raced in a time where helmets were basically just leather caps, seatbelts were pretty much non-existent and drivers could die in even small crashes. A crash like the 1973 British GP back in 1951 would easily injure at least 5 or 6 drivers involved and kill probably 1 or 2. Fangio dominated an era where entering every race is like a death wish. Fangio had won with multiple teams, something that would be impossible today. Fangio paved the way for all the other F1 legends. He obtained 5 world championships in the first 7 years of professional F1, which started in 1950. He achieved this milestone with 4 different car makers, from Alfa Romeo to Mercedes. He won it all. The pole positions percentage is 56%, the wins percentage is 46%. In 2015 these figures are still to be matched. 4. Lewis Hamilton. Lewis Hamilton is a British racing driver who races in Formula 1 for Mercedes-AMG Petronas. A 5-time Formula 1 world champion, he is often considered the best driver of his generation and widely regarded as one of the greatest drivers in the history of the sport. He won his first world championship title with McLaren in 2008. A lot of people may say Lewis Hamilton has won F1 championships just because of Mercedes-Benz dominance. Yes, I agree, Mercedes-Benz has been the best F1 team since 2014. However, we should not forget that he has shown his driving skills, his concentration, his ability to make the best decisions and making least mistakes in compared to his rivals during the high-pressure moments in 2008, 2017, 2018 in which his car was one of the best cars on track, not the best one. Also, he fought as a teammate to several world champions and finished ahead of them as followed: Fernando Alonso 1 out of 1, Jenson Button 2 out of 3, and Nico Rosberg 3 out of 4. 5. Jim Clark. Jim Clark was unquestionably the most talented F1 driver of all time. Very few drivers could have driven a Lotus 25 as fast as he did. The sheer numbers of races he competed in every year would leave a modern-day F1 driver speechless. If you believe that Hamilton or Vettel could win the Indy 500, the Tasman Series, the British and French F2 championships and the F1 championship in the same year, then you're insane. Jim Clark is and always will be the greatest racing car driver in history in my opinion. He is quite simply the best racing driver in modern history.
Guys, awesome you made it this far into the video. Please give this video a thumbs up. Please subscribe to the channel. It will help me a great deal. Let me also know in the comments what other top 10 videos you would like to see, and I'll see you in the next one.
6. Fernando Alonso. Fernando Alonso is a Spanish racing driver and former Formula One racing driver. He is a two-time Formula One world champion, and is often regarded as one of the greatest Formula One drivers in the history of the sport. I haven't seen so far any other pilot who has always taken out the best of his car in every single race. Maybe not the best qualifier but by far the strongest on race of the last 20 years. He defeated Schumacher and won 2 titles in a Renault. No other pilot has ever gone out so many times of his comfort zone and squeezed every single inch of his car in order to fight against better cars. With a decent car, he would have at least +6-8 world championships. 7. Alain Prost. It takes knowledge to appreciate Alain Prost quality as a racing driver. The best of the golden era. The king of the turbocharged mayhem. The most accomplished F1 driver. Simply the best, winning his second title in an inferior car with an inferior engine. Prost should have had at least 5 world championships, if not 6 or 7. In 1982, he was fastest, but bad reliability from the Renault caused him to only win 1 race and retire many times. In 1984, he had more car reliability problems and lost out to Lauda by half a point, the smallest margin ever. 1988 was the year that him and Senna met on equal terms, driving identical cars, and Prost got more points, but Senna only won the title by a quirk of an experimental ruling system that year. 8. Niki Lauda. The most impressive thing on Lauda, concerning strictly his abilities and not his bravery, which is admirable, regards his logic reasoning. On the track, the guy was a general mastering what or not to do, which risks to undertake or races to complete. Off the track, his reasoning was brilliant on the evaluation of the car, and the necessary adjustments. To this we should add the period in which he competed, facing Hunt, Prost, among others. He may not have the biggest number of titles, but by far, in my opinion, was the biggest genius on F1. Lauda had the skill to fight his way up through the field during the race. In those days it wasn't all about getting pole position or the fastest lap, but also getting temperamental cars through to the end of the race. This is something Alain Prost learned from him, and by the way he should be equal to Lauda in the ranking. 9. Sebastian Vettel. Sebastian Vettel is a German racing driver currently driving in Formula One for Scuderia Ferrari. He is a 4-time Formula One world champion, having won the championship in 2010, 2011, 2012 and 2013 with Red Bull Racing. By far the most underrated Formula One driver. Due to Lewis overshadowing and every other driver in recent times, people forget how good Seb truly was. Vettel is the Senna in the wet of this generation. He will be the only driver to ever top Schumacher. He is leading Ferrari to another period of glory days. The only reason Lewis Hamfist has won the last 2 championships is because Mercedes did such a great job with the car. Anytime Lewis gets under pressure he cracks, drives off track. He's a good driver, but he can only win if there is no actual competition or problems for him. Vettel is the best driver after Alonso, who would be at least a 5-time world champion if he didn't keep flocking to a new team right when his old one was getting it together. If he and Vettel were with Ferrari 2016, Mercedes would be done for. 10. Jackie Stewart saw him race several times. Certainly in a class by himself. Had 99 starts with 27 wins. He might have raced longer if not for the death of his teammate and friend Francois Severt. I was at Watkins Glen to see Jackie's 100th start, but after Severt's tragedy, Tyrrell pulled the team out of respect. Jackie was a champion of safety. With his persistence, many F1 drivers have had safer experiences, thanks to him. A true champion. Skilled and intelligent, Kame did the business and retired before the sport took from him. Modern drivers owe him for the safety measures he pushed and pushed and pushed for. Have to agree about, before so many computers and not so many gadgets. Plus he raced for smaller teams. Raw talent with grace and dignity.